Good morning and happy Friday. Keith Padgett, how you doing today?
Good. Good to see you, Kevin.
Yeah, you as
Glad to
well.
be here.
So, for those of us that have lived under a rock and don't know who Keith Padgett is, who is Keith Padgett, and tell me a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, currently I'm the academic program director at Columbia Southern University over fire and emergency medical services. Grew up in the metro Atlanta area and retired out of Fulton County as a deputy fire chief, chief fire marshal. I've been with Columbia Southern University just recently 14 years, which is surprising every time I say that.
Right on. Well, kudos to you. And I always see Columbia Southern University at all these different industry trade shows, and I know there's a strong alignment between Columbia Southern University and the International Association of Fire Chiefs. Could you give some context to the history of what is the Columbia Southern University and the IAFC relationship like? What's from when it started into where it is now?
Sure. Many years ago, I was on the safety, health, and survival section on their executive board, and I served as a liaison between that and the program planning committee for Fire Rescue International, the premier conference for the IAFC. And at that time, they were looking to encourage more company officers to attend FRI, and they created a company officer symposium. And that has now developed into a company officer, chief officer, and executive chief officer, part of the officer development program. And recently, in the last few years, they wanted to try to enhance the program and get a little more structured. And then so a fire chief, if they sent company officers to FRI or to a division conference or to a state conference or even a local fire department, they knew there was some consistency across the board as far as learning outcomes, curriculum that was developed, and also be able to offer some type of continuing education units as well as college credit. And that's where we came in. So the partnership kind of morphed into something a little bit different, and it's been wonderful so far.
So I've heard Jeff Doolin and you talk a lot about the officer development program. I've also heard some other terms, in all things public safety. There's always acronyms: ODP, LDCS. What is the officer development program, and who is it? Who is it tailored to? And yeah, just give me a little bit of context about it.
You mentioned LDCS, and that's a leadership development certification series, and that's what the company officer, chief officer, and executive chief fall under. And that's part of the overall for the IFC, the officer development program, because there's multiple levels in that, and we're gonna advance in that as we keep moving forward. But currently, the LDCS includes those three levels, and you're able to either take it at FRI or, as I mentioned, at a division conference, or you can take it totally online at columbiasouthern.edu through our Blackboard learning management system and our platform. But currently, there has historically been a lot of focus on FRI, and I know it's coming up in August in Orlando, and we're very excited about that. But that's what we call a hybrid model, and the student will select a course. Let's just say Company Officer 2, that level per se, and then they will come to Orlando, sit through 6 workshops, which are 90 minutes apiece, and they're delivered that standard curriculum, and that instructor will cover those unit learning outcomes during for that one curriculum, and then there's 6 delivered there on site. And then what happens then is they go home, and then they receive an email from our continuing education division that allows them to have access to the rest of the curriculum through Blackboard, our learning management system. They take unit 7 and 8 there, and then are able to take a multiple choice 25 question examination, and that allows them to be certified at that level.
And how does someone who takes an ODP class then turn that into credits for a degree?
That's a great question. And I got to use an example too, because we run into this quite often. Let's just say you and I started in the fire service at the same time, and we've been on the job for 20 years. Your path and my path is most likely going to be different. You might have became a paramedic. I might have became a hazmat tech or a fire arson or fire investigator. Well, our certifications are different. And at some point, you might have taken a couple of years or a couple of classes at a local community college. So when you come into CSU to be evaluated, you might want to say, hey, I think I'm going to do an associate's in fire science. And I might say, I want to do a bachelor of science in fire administration. Well, all that training and education and all our certifications are different. Our course and curriculum is different. The general educations are different. So you're receiving credit for one course and me receiving credit for another, and transfer credit could be totally different. So that kind of goes back, it circles back to how we apply at CSU, the Officer Development Program. You go in, you take one level. It could be Company Officer 1. That's one college credit hour that can be recognized at CSU. And of course, all of our courses are 3 credit hours. So if you take 1, 2, and 3, bring it to CSU along with your paramedic, hazmat tech, fire officer 1, fire officer 2, and we look at that overall and see what that can be applied to what degree that you're looking at and you've selected, and how that can be applied and how that can be inserted.
And so you mentioned there's a couple different. Everyone kind of comes up in different different backgrounds. They have different paths to the fire service. They have different degrees. And so, how does a firefighter take their prior education and experience and get an evaluation on a degree program?
It's a perfect question. Yeah. And I mentioned it earlier, go to columbiasouthern.edu. And I'm sitting in front of my computer. I want to make sure I'm looking at this. When you apply, you'll come up and it'll say apply now, and it'll be a drop down menu that shows all of our degree programs from associate all the way to the doctorate level. You select a degree program that kind of fits your need and what you think that you would like to go down the road that you would like to go down. Select that, and then once you do that, you're assigned a portal test and a candidate number. And there's a wealth of information. It brings up all the required hours, your account, financial support, and everything where you can upload all those documents that you may have had for certifications. Like I mentioned, paramedic, fire officer 1 and 2, EMT, advanced EMT, anything that you might have had, even the transcripts from even the unofficial transcripts from your local community college where you took a few courses several years ago. But upload all of those and see where you're at, and all it can be done for free. And there's even a little chat bot down there where you can communicate and ask questions. There's FAQs that are there that will help you work your way through the portal. And if you have any questions, of course, you can reach out to us, and someone from the admissions office will, of course, reach out as well.
So it seems like if firefighters have different experiences, and whether it's through their trades or whether it's through their formal education, they can work with the CSU tool and kind of figure out where they can get going and what they already have qualified for to move towards some type of degree.
Exactly. And I use this example because I'm a visual learner. And I think if I sit down with you, Kevin, and said, hey, look, here's a 4-year Bachelor of Science degree for fire administration, and it's 120 credit hours. And then I said, let's look at it as a 120 piece puzzle. And then all those different pieces are credit hours, and you have to fill in those pieces. And you walk in the door with, as I mentioned, the fire officer 1 and 2 and paramedic. Those are pieces to the puzzle, and you start plugging those pieces in. Well, at some point, you might have the same piece that won't fit on that puzzle, so you can't use it. And I kind of go back there to my daughter a few years ago. She was applying for a degree program, and one of the ladies there that day, she goes, "Oh, you can show up and you can just take all the general education requirements early in your first year or two. Those don't always apply." So I based on different degrees. So let's just say a criminal justice and a fire science degree might be close in the general education in general education requirements, but they might not be exactly. So it's really important that you sit down, you develop that roadmap for yourself, and see how those pieces can apply. And it's incumbent upon the individual to kind of keep on top of that. We have lots of resources here at CSU, admissions, the evaluators. They work to find out exactly what will apply and make sure that they're on track. But I highly encourage any individual that's applying to sit down, Look at all of our degree programs. Our website is full of information. It goes all the way down from degree programs to all the courses, all the way down to the textbook. So you get to see everything up front before you ever apply.
Yeah, Keith, you mentioned, but so what does it cost to get an evaluation of past education done?
That's 100% free. Anybody, once you apply now, you're not committing to the university. You're just applying to see where you're at. So don't think that's tying you into something, that you're required to do something. That's just a free evaluation to see where you're at, to work with us, work with the evaluators, work with the applicants and admissions, and just evaluate and see where you're at. And then if you go down the road and say, hey, I think I was looking at associates in fire science, but I've changed my mind and I'd like to look at a Bachelor of Fire Administration, we can evaluate you for that, see what it will apply, and go forward.
It's awesome, Keith. Well, anything else you would like to let the fire service and the world as a whole know about what CSU is offering and the alignment with IAFC around the ODP program?
And again, I think if, and I'll tell a quick story. I had a friend that I grew up in the fire service with, and he rose to the rank of deputy fire chief in Fulton County. And he called me one day and he says, really, he said, I need to kind of pursue a degree. And he said, kind of, what's my chance? I said, well, be evaluated. And he called me back in a few days. He said, oh my gosh. He said, I've got 46 hours toward a degree program. And I said, oh yeah, to a 60-hour associate's degree. I said, that's a large piece of the puzzle. And I said, but you got to look, you've got almost 25 years in the fire service. I said, all that education, your experience on the job, he was a paramedic, he was hazmat tech, he'd been through fire officer 1 and 2. I think he was through 3 and 4. So he had a lot that he brought to the table from all those many years of experience.
Well, it's good to know that no matter where you're at and if you're early or late on, you can kind of you can plug in with this free evaluation tool to figure out how you can level up.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like I said, it's free. There's nothing tying you to it. It's an easy thing. Applicant, there's a ton of information on the website that you can kind of plan and work through.
Keith, I admire all the work that you continue to do. Excited to see the ongoing evolution with all things CSU and IAFC coming up. And thanks again for all that you do for the fire service.
I appreciate it. Thanks for your time, Kevin.
Yeah, take care.